Have you ever been on a flight over India, maybe flying from Delhi to Mumbai, and you look out the window?
Oh, yeah, at 30,000 feet.
Right. And when you're up there, all the noise just disappears. The traffic, the honking, the chaos, it's all gone.
And you're left with just the pattern.
Exactly, the pattern. You see these like clusters of tiny dots all huddled together in the middle of a green field in Punjab.
Mm-hmm.
Or you see this lonely, winding string of houses just clinging to a ridge in the Himalayas, or, the gray, spreading concrete fungus that is a mega city.
And we tend to just look at that and think, oh, that's a house. That's just a road. We completely take it for granted.
But here's the thing, why? I mean, why is a village in Kerala this sort of beautiful, scattered mess of coconut trees and houses, while a village in Rajasthan is this tight, defensive knot?
Yeah, and why do some cities just explode into these economic engines while others just sort of exist?
That is the question. Today, we aren't just looking at maps. We are, and I mean this, we are decoding the DNA of Indian society through the lens of human settlements.
Mm-hmm. And this isn't just about architecture, is it?
Not at all. This isn't an architectural tour. Where we live, it tells us everything about our history, our economy, and, let's be honest, our caste system.
It's the physical manifestation of our social hierarchy. It's written right there on the land.
Deep stuff. Now, before we start decoding that matrix, I have some very specific marching orders for everyone listening.
Go on.
This deep dive is a special one. It's a full summary for UPSC, and it's been curated specifically for the Simplified UPSC by PTP YouTube channel.
That's right. So for everyone out there listening, this is high-yield, syllabus-focused content. We're taking the static text and we're making it exam-ready.
So here is the humble request. If you find value in this, if this helps you crack a concept, please go and subscribe to the Simplified UPSC by PPP channel. It is the absolute best way to keep these deep dives coming.
It really is.
And if you are capable, and I mean only if you're capable, please consider supporting the work on Patreon.
And to those who already are, we have to give a massive shout out to our current supporters. You guys are literally the fuel in the engine.
We see you, and we really, really appreciate you. Also, quick things. Don't forget to like the video and leave a comment. We actually read them,
We do.
Now, vital info for the aspirants. If you need free notes with practice PYQs, that's previous year questions, they're available right now on the public Telegram channel.
What if you're a power user? What about the premium stuff?
For the premium experience. This means you want access to all the videos of this series at once, plus the organized premium notes,
Which include detailed summaries, extra PYQs,
and Model Man's answers. For that, you need to join the private Telegram library. Just DM the public Telegram channel to get the details. Okay.
business handle.
Business handled. Let's dive in. What is our mission today, really?
Our mission is to surgically analyze Chapter 4 of the NCERT Class 12 book, India, People and Economy. The chapter is titled simply Human Settlements.
But we aren't just reading the book out loud.
No, God, no. We're linking this static knowledge to the dynamic demands of the UPSC exam. We're going to look at how this one chapter helps you answer mains questions from 2013, 2020, and even predict stuff for 2025.
Okay, so let's start with the absolute basics. Settlement. The word itself sounds very, very legal or maybe colonial. When we say settlement in this context, are we just talking about a house?
It's a bit more aggressive than just a house.
Yeah.
If you look at the NCERT definition, yes, on one level, it's a cluster of dwellings of any type or size. So,
right.
It could be a mud hut, could be a skyscraper.
Okay.
But the crucial part, the part that really changes things, is the second half of that definition.
Which is?
It says that for this purpose, people may erect houses and this is a quote, command some area or territory as their economic support base.
Commanding territory. That sounds like a military operation.
In a way, it is. I mean, think about it. A settlement isn't just shelter. It's a claim. When a group of humans settles in a valley, they're fundamentally saying, this water, this soil, these trees, these are ours to use now.
Right.
The text explicitly says the process involves the grouping of people and the apportioning of territory. It's about dividing up the map.
So whether we're talking about a tiny hamlet of 5 families or a mega city like Mumbai, it fundamentally boils down to people grouping together to exploit a specific resource base.
Correct. And that brings us to the first major cleavage in this topic, the Great Divide, rural versus urban.
I feel like we all intuitively know this one. Rural is, cows and farms. Urban is traffic and laptops. But is it really that simple?
Well, yes and no. The NCERT, it breaks it down into 3 specific dimensions, which is really useful: economic, social, and functional.
Okay, let's take them one by one. Economic.
This is the obvious one, like you said. Rural settlements derive their life support, their entire reason for being, from land-based primary economic activities.
Primary, meaning you're extracting things directly from the earth. So agriculture, fishing, animal husbandry, that sort of thing.
Exactly. If the settlement vanishes, the farm stops producing. The connection to the land is direct and absolute. Urban settlements, on the other hand, depend on secondary and tertiary activities.
Right, processing the raw materials and then providing services on top of that.
Precisely. The city doesn't grow the wheat. The city turns the wheat into bread, it packages it, it markets it, and then it sells it back to the village.
Okay, that makes sense. That's economics. What about the social side? This is where I think it gets really interesting sociologically.
It really does. The text notes that in rural areas, social relations are intimate.
Intimate, that's a very polite way of saying everybody knows everybody's business.
Yes, it was youth.
Hey.
That is exactly what it means. In a village, you know your neighbor, you know your neighbor's father, and you probably know who their grandfather owed money to.
Yeah.
Social mobility is lower. People tend to stay put. The social fabric is incredibly tight sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, suffocatingly so.
And in the city.
The city is the opposite. Urban life is described as complex and fast, and the social relations are formal.
Formal, as in transactional.
Yes, exactly. You might interact with 500 people in a single day in Mumbai. The rickshaw driver, the barista, the guy you bump into on the local train. But you don't know their names. You don't know their caste. You probably don't know their history. You're anonymous.
Which can be incredibly lonely, but also incredibly liberating.
Absolutely. It's the classic sociological trade-off, isn't it? Intimacy versus anonymity.
But the book makes a point that I really like. It says they aren't enemies. Rural and urban, they aren't these isolated islands.
No, not at all. There's a symbiotic organism. The text calls cities nodes of economic growth. Think of a city like a heart. It pumps goods and services, tractors, phones, healthcare, education, out to the rural hinterland.
And in exchange, what comes back?
The rural hinterland acts as the stomach. It feeds the city with food and all raw materials. They're connected by these arteries of transport and communication. If one fails, the other dies.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, let's zoom in on the rural side first. Because rural India isn't just one thing. I've driven through Uttar Pradesh, and it's just village after village packed super tight. But then you go to the hills or parts of Kerala, and it's a completely different world.
It is, and the NCERT outlines 3 major factors governing why that is: physical, cultural, ethnic, and security.
Let's break those down. Physical seems obvious. I'm guessing terrain, climate, water.
Water is the kingmaker.
Okay.
It's almost always about water in India. Historically, if water is scarce, people bunch up. You huddle around the tank, the oasis.
Right.
If water is everywhere, you can afford to spread out. It's that simple.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the cultural and ethnic factors? This feels like it's going to touch on the caste system again.
It touches on it heavily. We'll see this in a big way when we talk about fragmented villages.
Right.
The layout of a village often literally maps the social hierarchy of the people who live in it.
And security. The third factor.
This is sort of a historical hangover. If a region was prone to war or theft or robbery, people live close together. There's safety in numbers.
Okay, so based on these ingredients, land, water, caste, and fear, the book gives us 4 specific types of rural settlements. I want to walk through these and really visualize them. Let's start with number 1, clustered.
Also known as agglomerated or nucleated. Just picture a classic North Indian village.
Okay, give me the visual.
It's a compact, closely built-up area of houses. The living area is very clearly distinct from the surrounding farms and fields.
So you don't live on your farm. That's the key. You live in the cluster and you walk to the farm every day.
Exactly. And inside that cluster, you'll often see recognizable geometric shapes. A rectangular pattern, maybe a radial one spreading from a central point, or a linear one along a road.
And where do we find these?
Mostly in the fertile alluvial plains, the whole Ganges belt.
Why there specifically?
Well, a couple of reasons. One, the land is incredibly fertile and valuable. You don't want to waste good farmland by building houses all over it, so you condense the living space to maximize the growing space.
Okay.
And 2, agriculture there traditionally required a lot of cooperation managing irrigation canals, harvesting together. It's a team sport. Living close makes that easier.
But the text also mentions the Northeast and Bundelkhand. That's different terrain.
Bundelkhand is a really interesting case. That's central India. It's rocky. It's not the fertile plains. The driver there isn't just agriculture. It's security.
Right. Bundelkhand has a long history of, let's just say, unrest.
Dacoits, bandits, historical warfare. When you're living in a volatile region like that, you don't build your house a mile away from your nearest neighbor. You build wall to wall. You create a fortress without walls.
Got it. So clustered is all about cooperation and defense. Okay, type number 2. Semi-clustered.
This one is fascinating sociologically. The text describes it as a tendency to cluster in a restricted area, or sometimes the breakup of a large, compact village.
It sounds like a village that's trying to divorce itself.
That's a very, very accurate way to put it. And this is where social inequality becomes the architect of the village.
How so?
Well, the NCERT states it quite bluntly.
Oh.
In these cases, the landowning and dominant community occupies the central part of the main village. They take the prime real estate.
And everyone else.
The people of the lower strata of society, and here we are explicitly talking about scheduled castes and menial workers, they are forced to settle on the outer flanks of the village.
So the geography of the village is literally a map of the power structure. The powerful are in the center, and the marginalized are physically pushed to the edge.
Precisely. And that creates this semi-clustered or fragmented pattern. You see this a lot in the Gujarat Plain and in parts of Rajasthan. It's not a random arrangement of houses. It's a map of who holds power.
That is such a powerful example of how culture shapes physical space. Okay, type number 3. Hamleted.
This is when a single village gets physically broken up into several smaller units. They're separated by some distance, maybe by fields or a small patch of jungle, but they all share a common name.
Right, I've heard these local names. Pana, Para, Pali, Nagla, Dani.
Yes, those are the local terms for these hamlets. This is very common in the Middle and Lower Ganga Plain and in Chhattisgarh.
So why do they split up like that? Is it the same reason?
Again, it's often social or ethnic. You might have the main village and then a Dani a kilometer away where a specific clan or lineage group lives, or a Tola where a specific caste group has its own cluster. They're all part of the same administrative village, but socially and spatially, they are distinct little islands.
It's like a constellation of small settlements rather than one big sun.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. And finally, type number 4, dispersed. The isolated life.
This is the extreme opposite of that clustered village we started with. Picture a single hut, or maybe just 2 or 3 houses, sitting all alone on a hillside or deep in a jungle.
Where do we find these loners?
Mostly in areas where the terrain makes clustering impossible, or, just unnecessary. Meghalaya, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, because if you're on a steep slope, you simply can't build 500 houses together. It's not physically possible.
And Kerala. You mentioned Kerala.
Kerala is a unique case. It's fascinating. In Kerala, historically, you don't really have villages in the North Indian sense of the word.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you drive through rural Kerala, you don't see that pattern of field, 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 then a big cluster of houses, then field again. You just see a continuous mix. It's a house, a coconut tree, a paddy field, another house, another coconut tree. It's a continuous spread of homesteads.
Why? What's different there?
Water. It
Oh.
all comes back to water. In the plains of Rajasthan, water is in one place, so everyone goes there. In Kerala, water is everywhere. You can dig a well almost anywhere, and you'll get water. So you don't need a huddle. You can just live on your own plot of land.
It sounds beautiful, but I imagine that completely changes how social life works.
Completely. The level of daily forced interaction that you get in a clustered UP village is much lower. It changes the psychology of the community.
All right, so that's the village. But India is urbanizing so fast. Let's pivot to the town. Section 3. The evolution of Indian towns.
And we have to start by saying, we are not a new civilization. We didn't just start building cities when the British showed up.
Far, far from it. The NCERT classifies Indian towns into 3 main eras: ancient, medieval, and modern. Let's do a quick speed run through history. Ancient towns.
We're talking over 2,000 years of continuous history here. Places like Varanasi, Prayag, which is now Allahabad, Madurai. These didn't start as factories or administrative centers. They started as religious and cultural centers.
And this is where we can bring in our first massive PYQ linkage. This is so cool.
Yes. If you look at the UPSC Mains GS1 paper from 2013 and 2014, there's this amazing question. To what extent has the urban planning and culture of the Indus Valley civilization provided inputs to the present-day urbanization?
Oh, I love this connection, because even though the NCERT chapter lists ancient towns like Varanasi, the Indus Valley cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, they are the grandparents of all Indian cities.
They are. And when you answer that question, you have to realize the incredible irony. The Indus Valley had grid systems. They had covered drains. They had zoning, separating the citadel from the lower town.
They had better sanitation 4,000 years ago than some of our so-called modern towns have today.
Exactly. So the input to present-day urbanization is actually a reminder of what we lost and what we are now desperately trying to regain. The Smart City mission is essentially trying to get us back to Harappan standards of planning.
That's a very sobering thought. Okay, moving on. Medieval towns.
This is the era of the sultans and the Mughals. The text says about 100 existing towns have medieval roots, and these were primarily fort towns.
Built for power and control.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Delhi, Hyderabad, Jaipur, Agra. They were headquarters. They had walls, gates, grand architecture. They were centers of administration and military control.
And then the Europeans arrived,
Yeah.
the modern towns.
And this is a pivotal shift. The British didn't just build new towns. They completely changed the center of gravity of India.
Explain that. What do you mean by gravity?
Well, before the British, the center of gravity was the hinterland Delhi, Agra, Pataliputra, the fertile plains.
Right.
The British were a seafaring trading power. They needed one thing above all: ports.
Surat, Daman, Goa, Pondicherry.
Exactly. And then they consolidated around three massive nodes: Mumbai, then Bombay, Chennai, Madras, and Calcutta.
The text mentions they were built in the British style.
Yes, but functionally you should think of them as giant suction pumps. These cities were designed to extract resources from the Indian interior: cotton, indigo, tea, and ship them to England. They pulled the entire economic focus of the subcontinent from the center to the rim.
That is a key insight. The location of our biggest metros today isn't random. It's a colonial hangover designed for export.
100%. And post-independence, we tried to fix that. We consciously built new administrative capitals like Chandigarh and Gandhinagar. We built what Nehru called temples of modern India, the industrial centers like Jamshedpur, Durgapur, Bhilai.
And now in the latest phase, we have the satellite towns, Gurgaon, Noida, places like that.
Right, where the city basically spills over its brim and just swallows the neighboring villages whole.
Okay, so that's the history. But here is a trap that I think a lot of students fall into. You see a place with some shops and a road, and you think, oh, that's a town. But the government says, nope, that's a village.
Yeah.
How do we actually officially define an urban area?
The census town trap.
Mhm.
Yes, the Census of India has a very strict three-part test. To be officially designated a census town, you have to hit all three of these marks.
Okay, lay them on us. What's the checklist?
Number 1, population has to be over 5,000. That's simple enough.
Okay, easy.
Number 2, the population density has to be over 400 persons per square kilometer.
Also pretty easy to achieve in most of India.
Right. But here's the kicker. Number 3, at least 75% of the male working population must be engaged in non-agricultural pursuits.
Wait, hold on. Say that again. Only the male working population.
Yes, that's right there in the 2001 census definition. It's a direct quote.
Wow. That seems incredibly biased.
It is historically biased.
Right.
I mean, it reflects a time when data collection often ignored or undervalued female labor, especially in agriculture and the informal sector. But for the exam, that is the statutory definition you need to know. 75% of men must be doing something other than farming, manufacturing, services, trade.
So you could have a massive village of 10,000 people, but if 50% of the men are still farmers, you are officially not a town.
You are a village, a very, very large village. And that distinction matters immensely because urban areas get different funding, different governance structures, and different planning rules than rural areas.
That distinction is crucial. Okay, now, once you are a town, you aren't all equal. There's a hierarchy, right?
Yes, from Class I down to Class 6.
What makes a Class I town? What's the threshold?
A population of 100,000, 1 lakh. We call these cities. Then, if you hit 1 million, you're a metropolitan city. And if you cross the 5 million mark, you're a mega city.
And the text has a really startling statistic about where people actually live.
It does. It says that more than 60% of the total urban population in India lives in just the Class D towns.
That is insane. That means we are incredibly top-heavy. Everyone is crowding into the biggest places: Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata, Bangalore.
Which goes a long way to explain the traffic, the pollution, and, as we'll see, the slums. We haven't developed our smaller and medium-sized towns enough to take the load off the big ones.
Speaking of that load, let's talk about what these cities actually DO, Section 5, the functional classification of towns.
Right. Now, I want to clarify something first. Most modern large cities are multifunctional. You can't just say Delhi does one thing.
Right, it's a beast. It does everything.
Exactly. But the insert classifies towns based on their dominant or, their original function. It's a really useful way to understand why they exist in the first place.
Okay, let's play a game. I'll give you the category, you give me the examples and the why. First up, administrative towns.
Easy. These are the bosses, the headquarters. New Delhi, Chandigarh, Bhopal, Shillong. Their primary economy is government files, bureaucrats, and making policy.
Okay, number 2, industrial towns.
These are the engines. Mumbai, Salem, Jamshedpur, Bhilai. These places exist to make things. You can smell the sulfur and the steel in the air.
Transport cities.
These are the hubs, the junctions. So you have ports like Kandla, Kochi, Vizag, or you have major inland hubs like Mughal Sarai and Itarsi.
I always hear about Itarsi Junction on the train announcements.
If you've taken a train in India, you know Itarsi. It's a massive railway junction. The town literally exists because the tracks cross there. Its entire function is to move people and goods.
Right, commercial towns.
These are the traders. Kolkata, Saharanpur, Satna. These are historic market towns, centers of trade and commerce.
Mining towns.
These are extractive towns. Raniganj, Jaria, Digboy. These are often very tough places. The wealth comes directly from the ground coal, oil. And once that resource runs out, these towns often face a serious crisis.
Here's one I see on signs all the time. Garrison or cantonment towns.
Cant. You see Ambala Cant, Jalandhar Cant. These have military roots. They were built for the army, usually with wide roads and very distinct architecture, and often physically separated from the main civilian city.
Educational towns.
Big campus towns, where a university is the town. Roorkee, Palani, Aligarh. The entire local economy revolves around the students, the professors, and the academic calendar.
And the most ancient one of all, religious and cultural.
Varanasi, Mathura, Harinsar, Tirupati. The economy here is pilgrimage. It's faith-based tourism on a massive scale.
And finally, just plain old tourist towns.
Right, for leisure. Nainital, Mussoorie, Shimla. Places built for relaxation and scenery.
But like we said at the start, these lines blur over time, right?
They absolutely do. Shimla is the perfect example. It started as a tourist resort town for the British, but now it's also an important administrative capital. As cities grow, they become these complex, layered organisms. You can't put them in a single box anymore.
Which brings us to the ugly truth of that complexity. Section 6, the issues of urbanization.
This is where we stop looking at the neat map and start looking at the reality on the street. The text uses a very specific, I think very powerful phrase, the dual city.
Or the divided city.
Yes. In India, urbanization isn't a uniform process. It's schizophrenic.
Paint the picture for us. What does that dualism look like?
Well, on one side of the road, you have the planned city. Wide avenues, streetlights that actually work, manicured parks, privacy, 247 water supply, security guards. It looks like it could be in Singapore or London.
And on the other side?
You have the spontaneous city, the slums, the Juggi-Chapari clusters.
Describe them for us based on the text.
Informal, degraded, unbelievably crowded, no private toilets, no sunlight in the narrow lanes. These are the places where people who are forced to migrate for work, because the rural sector is squeezed, end up living. The city needs their labor, but it refuses to build affordable housing for them.
So they occupy the land that nobody else wants?
Exactly, the most environmentally vulnerable land. Marshlands, along railway tracks, on steep slopes prone to landslides.
And the source material, it zooms in on one specific example that is world famous, Dharavi.
Asia's largest slum, located right in the heart of Mumbai, on some of the most valuable real estate in the country. The description in the text is visceral. You can almost smell it as you read it.
It mentions the 90-foot road.
Yes, which has now been reduced to half its width because of encroachment on all sides. It describes these incredibly narrow alleys where even an auto rickshaw is banned because it simply can't fit. You have to walk.
And the buildings themselves.
There are multi-story structures made of corrugated metal, plastic sheets, and scrap wood, sometimes 20 meters high. It's a vertical labyrinth built out of recycled materials.
But here is the critical twist. It's not just a place where poor people sleep.
No. And this is the most critical point for sociology and for economics. Dharavi is an economic engine. The text lists the industries operating inside it. Ceramics, pottery, embroidery, leather tanning, and a massive plastic recycling industry.
So it's a factory without a roof.
It's an informal special economic zone. But the conditions are brutal. Rotting garbage everywhere, black smoke from rudimentary furnaces, hazardous fumes from the tanneries. It's a vibrant, innovative economy built on a foundation of human desperation.
And this brings us directly, and I mean directly, to a crucial PYQ from the 2025 General Studies Paper 1.
I was hoping we'd get here. This is a great one.
The question is, how does Smart City in India address the issues of urban poverty and distributive justice?
This is a beautiful but very tricky question. Because usually when we think smart city, we think technology. We think sensors, Wi-Fi hotspots, CCTV cameras.
Right, we think about the gadgets.
Exactly. But the question forces you to ask about poverty and justice.
So how do you answer that using what we've just learned from Chapter 4?
You use the dual city concept. You argue that a smart city cannot just be for the planned side of the street. If a smart city project only benefits the high-income areas and ignores the slums, if it ignores Dharavi, then it completely fails on the question of distributive justice.
So the answer is really about integration, not just technology.
Precisely. A truly smart city uses technology to integrate the informal settlements. It's about smart waste management for the slums. It's about smart water metering to ensure the poor get a reliable supply of water, not just the rich. You have to argue that smartness is about inclusivity and equity, not just about efficiency for the privileged. The NCERT text highlights the lack of basic amenities in slums. The Smart City mission is the tool you use to fix that gap.
That is a solid, high-scoring strategy. Don't just write about Wi-Fi, write about water for the poor.
That's it. That's the key.
There's another PYQ connection here, too, specifically about the environment. From the 2020 GS1 paper, question 15.
The flooding one. Yes. Account for the huge flooding of million cities in India, including the smart ones like Hyderabad and Pune.
Now, does Chapter 4 talk about the mechanics of floods explicitly?
Not the mechanics of rainfall, no. But it explains the root cause. Remember our very first definition of a settlement, apportioning of territory.
Right.
The text discusses the rapid, unplanned expansion of Class I cities. It talks about urban outgrowths, railway colonies, university campuses, new suburbs spreading out in every direction.
Urban sprawl.
And when you have this massive apportioning of territory for concrete and asphalt, what are you doing to the ground?
You're sealing it.
Yeah.
You're paving over the natural sponges that absorb water.
Exactly. You are concreting over the natural drainage channels, the lakes, the marshlands. The text mentions that slums often occupy degraded or low-lying land. Well, historically, those were the natural sinks for rainwater. When you fill them in with huts or you pave around them with luxury condos, the water has absolutely nowhere to go.
So the static concept of urban agglomeration in the NCERT is actually the villain in the dynamic story of urban flooding?
It is. The flooding isn't just because it rained too much. It's because we built too much, too fast, without any respect for the physical factors that we discussed right at the start. We ignored the terrain.
That is a brilliant way to connect those dots. Okay, let's look forward. Section 7, the future and sustainability.
The outlook is, well, it's intense. The text mentions that by 2050, an estimated 2/3 of the world's entire population will be living in urban areas.
2/3! That is a massive species-level demographic shift.
It puts an almost unimaginable pressure on infrastructure. But there's an interesting angle the text takes regarding waste. There's a sidebar about rag pickers.
Right, it asks, is our urban waste worth anything?
Yeah, and why do rag pickers sort out rubbish dumps? And in places like Dharavi, the answer is clear. Waste is the economy. Recycling isn't an environmental choice, it's a survival strategy.
It changes your perspective completely. Waste isn't just trash to be thrown away, it's a resource that the urban poor are capturing and putting back into the economy.
Correct. But they're doing it at a great cost to their own health and safety. Which brings us to the final concept in the chapter, the healthy city.
What's the benchmark for that? What does a healthy city look like?
The World Health Organization, WHO, has a definition. It suggests a healthy city must have a clean and safe environment. It must meet the basic needs of all its inhabitants. And this is the important part, it must involve the community in government.
Involve the community. That goes right back to the smart city and distributive justice.
It's all connected. You cannot possibly have a healthy city if half your population lives in the shadows, unheard and unserved.
Wow. Okay, let's just try and unpack everything we've covered today. It's been a huge journey.
It really has. We started with the humble mud hut and the 4 types of rural villages: clustered, semi-clustered, hamleted, and dispersed.
We saw how water and caste literally draw the map of the Indian village.
Then we walked through history, from ancient religious towns and medieval forts to the British coastal suction pumps and the modern industrial hubs.
We navigated the census town trap and that top-heavy hierarchy of Class I cities where everyone is crammed in.
And we ended with the stark, difficult reality of the dual city, the skyscrapers and the slums of Dharavi, and how to use that concept to answer tough mains questions on smart cities and urban floods.
It's a journey from the simple grouping of people to the most complex social organisms on the planet.
Indeed.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over. We talked about classifying towns by their function mining, religion, administration. But as we move into the future, with remote work, the metaverse, Starlink, will digital become a functional classification for a settlement?
That's a fascinating question. If you can work for a Mumbai-based company while sitting in a dispersed settlement in Himachal,
Does the physical distinction between rural and urban start to completely dissolve?
or do we get a new type of settlement altogether, a dispersed urban settlement, a digital hamlet?
Something to think about. The map is not finished. We are still drawing it every single day.
Absolutely. The patterns of human settlement are never static. They're always evolving.
Well, that's it for this deep dive into human settlements. We really hope you now see the map of India a little differently.
And hopefully you're ready to tackle those mains questions with a bit more depth and a lot more nuance.
Remember, this deep dive was brought to you by Simplified UPSC by PPP. Please, if you got value from this, go right now and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It helps us immensely to keep doing this kind of research.
And check a link for Patreon support. A huge shout out again to our patrons. You are the ones who make this deep analysis possible.
Like this video, share it with your study group, and leave a comment below. We want to hear your takeaways. Did we miss anything important about your hometown?
And don't forget the notes.
Yes, head to the public Telegram channel for your free notes and practice PYQs. And for the really serious aspirants who want the full package, the premium notes, the extra PYQs, and the model mains answers,
DM us on the public channel to join the private library.
knowledge is power, but organized knowledge is success.
Well said.
See you in the next deep dive.